everyone, it's Kelly here. Welcome to my channel if this is your first time. Welcome back if you've been before. Lovely to have you either way. On this channel we talk books, and today it is time to wrap up November. Now, I am recording this on the 30th of November, and I actually have hope that I will be able to finish another book before the end of the day, which is this one, Spring by Ali Smith. I've been reading through the cycle, the quartet. Seasonal Quartet, I think it's called. The Seasonal Quartet by Ali Smith this year, and this is my third read. Today is technically the last day of spring here in Australia, so I am hoping that I will finish it today. That is how far through I am. I'm up to page 231 of 300 and something. 336. 31, 36, just a bit more than 100 pages to go. So I am actually hopeful that I will get to finish this one today. November has been a crazy busy month for me, so it has been sitting there. I read most of it in one sitting, and then I just haven't had a minute to pick it back up again. So that is my hope, that there will be another book finished before the end of November, but it's time. I've got to make this video so that I can get it out to you. So let's just wrap up all of the other books that I have read in November. And also I have one DNF to share with you. Rant incoming. Okay, let's start with books that I read and enjoyed. So starting with Wyrd Sisters by Pratchett. This is the second book in the Witches kind of sub-series in the Discworld. I read the first one last year, this one this year, and I'm hopeful that I will read through that entire sub-series. That is my plan, and I have the next couple lined up ready to go, so hopefully that will be achievable. But this is the one that I read in November. This was another fun romp. I enjoyed it. There's clever humour. There are very unmistakable references to Hamlet, Shakespeare's Hamlet in here, which was also quite fun to read. Was Hamlet one that I studied at school? Yeah, I think so. So, you know, it's a play that most of us are pretty familiar with if we've ever done any Shakespeare study in our lives. So that was fun to kind of see all those little references kind of popping up in the book. Granny Weatherwax, Nanny Og, and Margaret are the three witches in this book, and we had already met Granny Weatherwax in the previous book in the Witches sub-series. But here she's joined by two other witches, Nanny Og and Margaret. So yeah, they were all delightful. I loved their personalities. They were all really fun. I would say I think I prefer the story of Equal Rights, which was the first book in this sub-series, but just a little bit better than this one. But I definitely look forward to reading more of this series and reconnecting with these characters again. They were delightful. It was really fun. Very glad to have read that one. The next book that I finished in the month of November is A Prayer for the Crown Shy by Becky Chambers. Again, this is a second book in a series. So the first is this one, A Psalm for the Wild Built. It's the Monk and Robot series. Now this book, I think I might have given maybe a 3.75 or somewhere in that vicinity. There were a few things in here that I wasn't sold on. However, this one, 5 stars, baby. I loved it. I absolutely loved it. So we were back with our main character, Sibling Dex, who is a tea monk who travels the countryside and stops in at various towns to open up the tea caravan that they travel in, and to offer tea to anybody who needs a cuppa and someone to chat to. It's a service that they offer, and I really love that character. Sibling Dex is fabulous. Also, we have Maugham, the robot, and they met up in this book, in the first book of the series, and here they are sort of continuing Maugham mission to ask the humans of Panga, which is the world this book is set in, what they need. And this is sort of what happens as Moscap and Sibling Dex go around Panga, where, you know, Moscap is asking humans what they need. And this is the first time that humans have been in contact with robots for a very, very long time. So that was the sort of the premise of it. Deep reflection ensues, as per the first book. It was the same sort of thing. What else did I say? Oh, there was some parts of this book that I actually laughed out loud at. Some very funny sections, and I really loved that. Moscap is just delightful. Absolutely delightful. And absolutely the kind of character who is just so wholesome, but not in like a cheesy way, in just like a really endearing sort of way. So I absolutely adored this, loved it better than the first one. I'm so glad I persisted with this series, even though the first one underwhelmed me a little bit after all of the build-up. So this was absolutely worth my while. And the third book that I finished, and this is the last of the books that I finished in the month of November so far. Several hours to go, hopefully. We'll finish another. But it was this slim little volume of Sanditon by Jane Austen. Now, Sanditon is Jane Austen's unfinished work. So this is something that she was working on before she passed away, and then obviously did not get a chance to finish it. And in this edition, the Oxford World Classics edition, you only get what Jane Austen wrote. There are other editions of Sanditon where they have been finished by somebody else, by various people. One, I believe, was her niece who finished it, and that's sort of seen as a kind of canonical version. But this is just the Jane Austen part of Sanditon, so the bit that she wrote. It's and it was a bittersweet reading experience, I have to say, because knowing that this novel was unfinished, you don't get the conclusions. You don't even get to find out who the main love interest is going to be or anything like that. So yeah, the setup was great. I really liked the idea of it. It was definitely a bit of a departure from her previous works, quite different. Partially because she spends a lot of time with various characters, whereas all of her other novels tend to be singularly from a one person's point of view. So this was definitely a different kind of setup, and perhaps if it had been finished, it might have been edited in a different way. You know, she may have made changes to how things were set up. We just will never know. So, and that was the bittersweet part about it, because I enjoyed this and I want to know how she intended for it to end. So yeah, I would have loved to have seen how she intended to finish it, but obviously that can't happen. So I don't know, maybe I will try to read one of the various conclusions that have been written, but I'm not sure. Maybe I'll just stick to this one. But that is another book of I've read all of her published novels. Now I've read Sanditon, so the only thing for me to read now to have read all of Jane Austen is her short story work and the early novellas and things like that that have now been published. So I gave that one 3.75 stars. Who knows what it would have been if it was a completed novel. I feel like I didn't tell you what my rating was for Wyrd Sisters at the top of the video. It was 3.75 stars as well. So 2 3.75 star books, 1 5-star book. It has been, despite being a sort of slower reading month just due to being super busy, definitely I have read some amazing books. Now let's get on to the aforementioned rant. So I picked up a book that was on my 24 in 24 list, a list that I put together at the end of last year of books that were on my shelves that I wanted to get to at some point in this year. Am I going to finish that list? No way I'm not. However, this one is now off the list because it is a DNF, and that is The Razor's Edge by W. Somerset Maugham. I have never read any Somerset Maugham's books before, and I had heard really good things about this one. And it may be that it goes on to be a great book. However, and I have tabbed this so that I can read all of these out to you, the number of times this person mentions how fat someone is was astonishing, based on the number of pages that I read. So I got to page 24 and I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 tabs of things that have been said about somebody being fat. So allow me to read some excerpts to you that will give you an idea as to why I have decided to DNF this book. So first of all, we get introduced to, well, we don't get introduced to this person at all. The door is opened by a butler who is described as tall and stout. And then straight away goes on to describe Mrs. Bradley, whose house they have just entered, as she must have been a handsome woman when young, for her features, though on the large side, were good, and she had fine eyes. And then goes on to talk about how she was looking uglier now because she's getting older. And then on the very next page, that was on page 14, page 15, we've been introduced to another character, Gregory Brabazon, who is described as a short, very fat man, as bald as an egg except for a ring of black curly hair around his ears and at the back of his neck, with a red, naked face that looked as though it were on the point of breaking out into a violent sweat, quick grey eyes, sensual lips, and a heavy jowl. So, you know, at this point I'm just like, okay, all right, that's 3 people in the space of 2 pages that you're describing as being fat. Then the daughter of... like 2 pages later, the daughter of Mrs. Bradley comes into the room, and she is described, so she's literally like, I don't know, 17 years old or something, so she's not even an adult at this point, but he's describing her as, so her name's Isabel. Isabel was a tall girl with the oval face, straight nose, fine eyes and full mouth that appeared to be characteristic of the family. She was comely, though on the fat side, which I ascribed to her age, and I guessed that she would fine down as she grew older. She had strong, good hands, though they also were a trifle fat, and her legs, displayed by her short skirt, were fat too. Like, just... This is a 17-year-old girl. Anyway, then I'm like, okay. At this point, I'm just like, I don't know. Then we get to chapter 6, page 23. I was introduced to a stoutish, tall man with a red face who looked somewhat ill at ease in evening clothes. He was a Dr. Nelson, blah, 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 blah. Another fat person. Then we come back to describing Isabel again, the 17-year-old girl. Blah, 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 blah. Isabel was looking very pretty. She was dressed in white silk with a long hobbled skirt that concealed her fat legs. The cut of her frock showed that she had well-developed breasts. Her bare arms were a trifle fat, but her neck was lovely. Blah, blah, blah. There was no doubt about it. She was a very pretty and desirable young woman, but it was obvious that unless she took care, she would develop an unbecoming corpulence. At this point, I decided to close the book and move on with my life, and not read the rest of it, because, oh my God, is that not just, like, if it had come up once or twice, you'd have been like, that's odd. I mean, he's describing what people look like, sure, but he's obsessed with how fat this girl is. And I'm just like, dude, no, absolutely not. So we're moving on. The other part about it is very description heavy. And it's not something I prefer in the books that I read anyway. So I probably was, other than being enraged by what I had read, I was also sort of getting a bit bored of reading the descriptions. And it's disappointing because in the first like 2 chapters, it seemed like it was going to be such an interesting, 3 chapters even. 4 perchance perhaps. And it's not until we get to chapter 5 that we start describing people as fat. And that's a defining feature of who they are as a person. So, and, you know, if it had been sort of more of those like passing, you know, he was a very stout man, blah, 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 I probably could have moved on with my life and continued reading the book. But in this case, I just had enough of listening to this man describe a teenage girl in terms like that. It just seemed unnecessary and not something that I want in my life. So this book is going to be donated. Okay, so that is the books that I have read in the month of November. Now, today, as you are watching this, potentially, if you watch it on the day that it is released, and I have done all my editing and so on in time so that it can come out on the schedule that I was planning, it will be the 1st of December when you are watching this. And if you are watching this section of the video, it means I've decided to keep it in. And I have been contemplating having a go this year at doing Vlogmas, which is where you post a vlog every day in December up until Christmas. And it is a big undertaking. It's not something that I'm not 100% sure that I'm gonna pull it off. I don't know if I'm gonna be able to film every day. I don't know if I'm going to be able to get videos edited and so on and out in a timely manner. But I'm gonna have a go. I'm gonna have a go at it this year and see how I feel about it. I've got a few things planned. I've got some things to do on a daily basis, and then so there'll be things like advent calendars, and I've got a little reading wheel that I have put together to get through some of the Christmas short stories that I have had on my shelf for some time, just to sort of like make it a bit novel and fun. So I'm planning to do that each day. I also like to wear Christmas earrings in the month of December, so I'll be choosing my earrings and showing you those each day. And if I've got special events to go to, I might do a little bit of like get ready with me and that sort of thing. So if you're keen to see those, they should be popping up starting from tomorrow, the 2nd of December. So my plan is I will film on the day, and then I will, with the view to it being uploaded the next day. If that schedule doesn't come off, it is what it is. I'll just do my best to try and get some stuff filmed. Perhaps I will, you know, put a few days together if I can't quite get there. So we'll see how it goes. But that's my plan for December. So you should be seeing a heck of a lot more content popping up on my channel in the month of December leading up to Christmas. So if you're keen for that, make sure you subscribe. And if you want to be notified of those videos coming up, you can also hit the bell button and select that you would like to be notified when all of my videos get uploaded. All right, so that is my wrap up for the month of November. Thank you so much for watching, and I look forward to catching you on the next video. Bye.